Sure.
So, yeah, so let's start. So welcome to our today's PowerShell User Group Rhein-Neckar meetup with Gael, who is going to talk about PowerShell, MS SQL and T-SQL, and simple CRUD for PowerShell. So for those people who may maybe not know Gael, you're an MVP, you're one of the main organizer of the PSConfEU automation architect, and of course you're leading the PowerShell DSC community. So a lot of things you're busy with, besides you losing your phone and all other things besides. So yeah, great to have you today.
Life still happens. Thank you very much for having me.
And so just quickly, so Ryan and I, we started the user group in 2019. We got on hiatus for obvious reasons, and now restarted it in 2023, going online all the way. Hopefully next year we can move to hybrid. We have some options, so we hope we can do that. If you want to follow us, you probably already follow us on Meetup because you're signed up probably, but you can also find us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and the videos are on YouTube. I will paste the links later on into the chat. The company I'm working with is coincidentally also sponsoring the user group, which is ScriptRunner. And if you are interested in some PowerShell goodies like a PowerShell poster, security ebook, cheat sheet for PowerShell on Teams and Exchange, you can go to our website. By the way, even if you own maybe already our PowerShell poster, we just updated it. So now we have some info in it with PowerShell, including PowerShell 7 and the secrets management module and splatting. So yeah, you might be interested in get this as well. And another interesting and nice announcement in Belgium, Xavier, who I think is already joining us together with Merlin, is restarting the Belgium PowerShell user group. They will have their first in-person meetup in January, and I just learned this afternoon. I think they also already have one online in December with Doug Fink. It's probably going to talk about PowerShell AI, maybe, most probably, I guess. Yeah, so a lot of things happening right now, which is great around PowerShell. A lot of events coming up. I'm gonna have together with a colleague, Ask Me Anything session with Gael in December. If you're interested, he's also very prolific and long-time PowerShell user. It starts at 4, maybe it ends at 8 o'clock. You never know because he likes to talk. And then we're gonna have.
He's very funny and got lots of dad jokes. So
yes,
I really recommend.
Yeah, so be prepared and join us there. And yeah, as I said, in January there will be a user group meeting in Belgium. Then Gael, you probably will talk about maybe a little bit about PowerShell Day Switzerland and PSConfEU, which is going to happen also next year. And then for the people in the US, the PowerShell and DevOps Global Summit will be in April. So a lot of things to look forward to. But actually, what we're actually looking forward right now is, of course, Gael's session on his topic. So with all that said, I will shut up and hand it over to Gael.
Me too. I will shut up. No? Okay, fine. Okay, let me try to share my screen. And
yes, please.
I will try. Hopefully that's going to work. And this is going to be this one. Tell me if everything's clear, if it's too small or not, if everything's good.
Looks fine.
Great. Good. So yeah, obviously I will talk a little bit about PSConfEU 2024 because for you it may feel like far away, but we are really, really deep into organizing it. We yesterday recorded the session we did during Minicon for the mentorship program, and we just released it for the people who subscribed to the mentorship program. So we are really working on it. You will see more information coming out. There's already like some tweets that goes out with some information, and it will be, obviously it's already public in Antwerp, Belgium, the 24th to the 27th of June. You can already buy tickets online. If you go to psconf.eu, you can see it's there. Remember that if you wait for too long later during the year, the price will increase. So make sure you take it early enough and don't delay. Especially if you still have budget for 2023, maybe you can buy your tickets early before the end of the year and then use that for coming next year. There's also the call for paper going on until the 15th of December. If you want to submit session, please do, but don't wait for the last minute. It would be better. Thank you. So, and on the other side, there's another event, which is the PS Day CH. So that's a brand new event that we're having in Switzerland, not too far from where I live, in Lausanne. And we're trying, it's first time in Lausanne. It's similar to what we did in the UK last year. This year, it's going to be close to me because it's easier. And so we're having this, we will start opening the sales for the tickets soon. The price is quite low. It's about 180 Swiss francs in like the full price. We will have discounts early on when we open for the early birds. And the CFP will open after the PSConfEU CFP, the call for papers or call for speakers. So we still have a form that says, hey, if you want to come, what would you like to hear about it? Go into this page, SynEdgy.com, which is my company, /PSDCH, and then you can fill up the form. We can fill the form. Let's have a look. There's just a Microsoft form, some information about it. If you want to have it in French, you can. Maybe you don't. But then just in case, it's there. And you have all of this information that we are looking at. So feel free to fill it up. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, it's not going to be about PowerShell. It's going to be about a little bit of PowerShell and a lot of other things. So what we do usually, we work in, I work in a company that loves to manage a lot of different things for lots of users. And not everything can be tracked through, let's say, the bad words Jira as an example. You can't have tickets for everything. You can't have, maybe a service now for everything. Sometimes you just need to store data which have informations related to each other in a database somewhere. And you need to use this data, update this data, but maintain data integrity. And that's a big word. And we're not going to go too deep into the database modeling type of things today, but we will see, okay, we have some data we want to store somewhere in a database, and then we want to have PowerShell use it and retrieve it. So what are we doing? What are we going to do? Where are we going to put the data? How are we going to insert this data, get the data from PowerShell, and then maybe manipulate a little bit the data? So first of all, you need a database. So you need to create a database, and I'm not going to deep dive into those things. There's a lot of good tutorials about, getting this ready, but I will show you a few things that if you use Azure Data Studio, as in the example here, I will try to make it a tiny bit bigger. Is that good enough?
Looks good to me.
It looks very familiar for the people using VS Code, right? Obviously, because it's based on the same things, but you can see like there's some different icons and like some different graphical user interface for it. You can see that I'm already connected to one database, which is called PSConfEU DB. And then I have things here, which is the table, views, and some other database objects. I forgot to give you a disclaimer. I am by no means a database expert. I am really, database is usually my, the dark side of the things that I don't really want to touch. And then if I have a question, well, we know some very famous DBAs around, like one with a beard, and some others, like quite a few of them wrote books. So if I have a question, I would go to them, and I would definitely not trust my knowledge. And I do that quite often, to be honest, because they're very helpful. So if you're looking more into database administrations, there's a Discord and there's a lot of resource around DBA tools. Go over there. I'm just giving you the basics of what I understand and how I use it, more like a kind of a developer side of things. A lot of things might be wrong, and feel free to tell me at the end of the session, not during the session. I don't want to know for now. But no, I'm not saying it's perfect science and everything's good, but I have a way of working with it, which I believe it could be useful for anyone starting. And maybe you're familiar with the SQL Server Management Studio, which is another interface. For this one, I wanted to go a bit more modern than the old SQL Management Studio. So I wanted to give this one a spin. And it's different. So I'm not really familiar with Azure Data Studio yet, but there's a few things I like, and I will show you some of those features very quickly. It's not going to be a deep dive because we have to cover lots of technology and a lot of parts. And obviously, I want to touch on T-SQL or Transact SQL, and then we will do like a different bits of bobs or different stuff. So first of all, we have the database. I just connected to it, and you can see it's a little green dot there. And then I have already some information there. If I want to create a table, maybe I can just say, hey, I want to create a new table. And I can, I don't know if you hear, I've got the kids shouting next door, but that's fine. The show must go on. So we can say, you know, that's the new table. So we will call it PSUG. We'll do a quick table with, you know, some information in there that we can store all the PowerShell user group maybe. So first of all, we can have maybe an ID to start with, and the type will be a big int. It's going to be the primary key for this table. So then we can't allow null. There's default value. We can add more actions. You know, we just will insert after. We will have the name. It will be another type, which let's say it's going to be nvarchar. Let's just say 100. If you have a very long name for your user group. And like this, you can start building just your table. So it's very like a GUI driven way. And you can see that as I'm doing this, you have the script that is being built over there. So you can go and edit your table and create your tables there, and they will automatically generate the script for that. So if I have a different view, you can see I have the connection there. So let me, you have other ways as well. You can have a database project. So let me go, I will just close this one for now, and I'm not going to save it because I want to show you other views. So that was, you know, going into the database, see what was there. I can look at my table, and I can look at the details of the table if you refresh. So this is I forgot to mention, this is an Azure SQL database. So I just said, well, create, you know, in my Azure tenant, create a new database for me. I did that before. And then I just say, well, create the database over there. I know I can use the database as long as I connect to it. So these are the different columns for this one. This is just the change log I keep for all the changes going to that database. And then we can have, you know, information about users, some information like this, or I can have another table, which is some information about events, like this event, which is a PowerShell user group event. So I have the short name, a full name, description, and some other information. So these are just some tables I have in the database. And so far, there's just, you know, primary keys, a few fields, different types. You can see integer and varchar, you know, different type, datetime as well, different types. And those are, because it's a Microsoft SQL server, which has databases, so then it's those format. If you use different type of database, you may have different types of data. So for instance, SQLite has less information. So Tom has a question. I'll give you 2 minutes. No.
10 minutes is enough. Probably, does this work also against local SQL databases, or does it only work against Azure databases?
Yes, it does work against the local database. I've never used that one against, because I just tried this. I thought, okay, let's do it in Azure. Let's try this one. But I've seen there's options to connect to a local MS SQL database. Or you can have a container, you spin up your container, and then you connect this to your SQL instance on your container. Again, for those details, I'm sure Rob Sewells have done, I think he has done some presentation on Azure Data Studio, or I'm sure the community has. Again, that's not my expertise. I'll just give you a very quick overview. Okay. And if you want to use SQL Server Management Studio, I think, and I use it daily, I'm pretty happy about it. It feels a little bit outdated compared to this one, but and there's a few features I will show you that I prefer with Azure Data Studio, which at least I haven't found on SSMS or SQL Server Management Studio. And this is when we go to the database project. So it should open it. Oh, because I'm not on the right. I'm not on the right version. So let me see if it's there. I think it's this one. So I'm just reopening Azure Data Studio on a different project. And let me close all. Let's just say it's fine. Okay, so you see, this is my database. I could create another connection. And just to answer what you said, you say connection type, and then you can have, Windows authentication, and then you could go to your local instance. That would be perfectly fine. You can even do it with I'm pretty sure you can do it with a SQL Server Express. And obviously you won't have all the features of the SQL database, but for development purposes, I'm pretty sure that would be much more than enough. Unless you want to do replications and things like that. So let's just connect to it. And we ask, okay, go do the connection. And then it goes to Azure and then, queries the information and then retrieves them on the same thing that we just saw. So I wanted to show you the database project. Here we are. And then I've separated in some folders. And I have SP for store procedure, tables there. So I mentioned the tables that we saw before. I want to keep, those things here. So I create my tables a bit like this, the script. Again, you can still do that with the user interface. That's fine. I just want to keep them a script. So then we can put them into, obviously, you can put them into Git, and then you can store this information and the changes you're doing. So the little things I like about it is when you have a project, a database project, you can just build it. And when you build it, as you would expect, it starts to look at everything that you have. There's a bit of linting, but more like error checking. Is there an issue? And then you can see, wow, there's an error there. Actually, I didn't expect that. There's actually 4 errors there. So I need to go and look at what are the errors? What's the problem I have? And that doesn't look good for today. Oh yeah, I know actually what it is. You see, it tells me, well, there's some issue there in your syntax when you're doing del user SQL. And this is in my SP app user path. So if I go there, SP app user, del user, I realize that, there's squiggly lines there. I have some issues with this file. I'm trying to create a procedure, but the syntax is not correct. And that's good because I'm really bad at T-SQL. So really, I want someone to help me. And every time I make a change, I just make sure it can build. The same way you should be doing with PowerShell projects when you have the syntax going on, you do some linting, you do some testing with Pester. You want someone to help you, and you want yourself to help future you to make sure you're not breaking stuff. So this one is, this store proc doesn't look good. So probably we should maybe, just for now, try to make sure it builds. So we do some quick change. We repeat that. We try to build again. I'll scroll down to the end. And I cross my fingers so that it builds and that works. Let's go and see. OK, let's scroll down. This time, I have no errors. Obviously, this store proc doesn't do much, but at least I have something. So now I can start, doing some more changes and then make sure that works. So for now, I want this store proc just to do a select star from the table user. It's obviously not deleting users as I would like it to do, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of T-SQL, which is just we're creating a procedure or a stored procedure, which we leave on the server, and then we can have anything executed. So I'll do select star. I want to make sure it looks into a table. So sorry, select from, and my table will be app user. And you can see it's very familiar with VS Code. You have IntelliSense in there. So here you can find automatically my app user table. And then It helps me, and then it checks again the syntax. I have syntax highlighting. I have also IntelliSense, and I have some checking of my syntax. So then I save this, and then because I just changed it, I will build it again. So I wait a little bit, it does the changes. And there we go, 0 errors again. So that looks to be working. So now if I want, I can go and deploy that to my database. So first of all, I want to look at the current objects I have in this database that I am connected to. So I look into programmability, store procs, and then I have Dell app user, and this one is Dell user. So it's not exactly the same, right? But what I can do is I don't have the Dell user, so I will try to publish what I have in my project, and then see if it appears into my database. So let's go into the database project, and then I can publish. Here, obviously, I need to select my profile, which keeps all the information to connect to that database in Azure. I have different connection there. I will go to this one, click connect, and then publish again. And there we go. It's just recompiles, and then you can see it's trying. So there's a sort of package which is called a DAC pack. Again, no expert here, but basically it's packaging your database objects in a way that it can be deployed into your database, especially on your Azure SQL database. And if it works, then that's fine. So there's a few things that you need to know. When you do databases, sometimes making updates to the database is a bit of a problem because you will maybe alter the tables, change the data. Here, basically, you're not trying to cope with that. You're just developing the base, and then it will tell you if it will delete data or if how it will handle the updates and the migrations from one version to another. I'm just giving you the very basic principles here. If you want to go deeper, please do your research, and I can help you as much as I know so far, but I'm not an expert in this area again. But the idea is you create very simple definition of the state you want to be, and then the DAC pack will try to just deploy that to your database and tell you what to do. You can also script it, so then you can review the script, and then you can execute the script for the update. So it deployed successfully. So now if I go back to my server and my connection, and then I will refresh those things, you can see some of them I've removed, but then I have my Dell user here. And then this is my parameters, and I should have the same parameters as I have here. So far, so good. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand through the interface because I can't see your cameras. All right. So that's the basic of the database side of things. Let me just open the chat in the meantime so that I can see what's happening in the chat. Otherwise, because I'm not always looking at the chat, if there's anything going on, Heiko or someone,
yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, feel free to let me know.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah. Thank you. So, okay, so that is the SQL side, and then we can look at maybe a little bit more deeper into the T-SQL side now. So that was just, how to make change and how to deploy the change to my database. And now I have something on my server here. So first of all, if I want to execute this, I can go, well, script as execute, and then it thinks a little bit, and then it tells me, well, if you want to execute this against your database, you can do this, and then I can change the value. And then, for instance, I don't need to do anything, maybe. So I could execute that. There's a few things in my store proc which are not good. So some parameters are not null. So I guess it's not going to work if I execute it as it is. So let's look at some other. Oh, that was Dell event actually. Anyway, let's look at some of the files and look at what a store proc could look like. So something relatively simple like the event. So let's look at the table first, so then you understand what an event looks like. Pretty simple table. You have an ID, which is the identity again. That means there will be, you don't have to, when you insert a new entry, so a new row into your table, it will automatically increment the ID and you don't have to manage it. That's a good way to reference it later. So I really want to do that. And most of the time I will reuse this principle. Then I have short name, full name, description. I just, change the type. And then I have, when I have created the entry, and then when did I change the entry. So now I have this table, I can store data. So then I have store proc, so store procedure, to be able to make those changes, because at the same time, it's probably not efficient, but I like to have keep some information about what happened. So I will say, well, I want to create or update an event. And that's a pattern I use quite often. I can either create with this procedure, and that means creating a new row with new data. Or if there's an existing row and I know its ID, I can just say, for this ID, please update it. So when update the different fields. So when I start to say, well, create a new create a new row, then I will provide all the information, the short name, the full name, the description, and some other information if I want to say, well, please insert that into my table. And then if I want to update it, I say for the row of ID 1, the first one I entered, please update the short name to this value. So with one store proc, I can do both. And the way I do it is with an if. So that's just a pattern that I use. Obviously, you can do it yourself. I just wanted to show you because you're used to PowerShell, I assume, if you're here, but maybe not so much with T-SQL. T-SQL is SQL with a little bit of things specific to Microsoft SQL. And I think it's daunting at the beginning to get into it because it's very different. But then if you keep it simple, like I try to do, usually you get by pretty quickly because it's an if something happens, and then you do something else. And if you want to do more than one line or more than one execution, you have a begin and an end. And when you use the right tool, like the familiar VS Code, or in this case it's Azure Data Studio, but based on the same technology, you have very good interface that helps you with everything you're doing. Again, you have IntelliSense, a lot of things like that really helps you. And then you have the build that when you change something, you can validate that the syntax is correct, and that helps you along the way. And then you have SQL. Honestly, I still use Google a lot for all the SQL I'm doing. Even if it's something as simple as insert into, I just need to make sure I get it right. If I don't remember, I just go and look for it. But basically, I do simple queries like this. So we create the procedure with some parameters. We declare variable. That's something that we don't necessarily need to do in PowerShell, but then you can have, you declare your variable, the type of your variable, and then you can give a default value that you can change later. You can execute other store proc, and in this case, every time I create or update something, I will just log something in my change table, in my log change table. Change log here, that's the table. And then I execute the store proc log change or log a change, which is here. That's another store proc. I just execute it from within another store proc. Same as PowerShell, you have a function that calls another function. Same principle. All the function definitions here lives on the SQL Server side. So you just have to say, hey, SQL Server, I would like to execute this one, log change, or I would like to execute this one, create or update event. Here are the parameters. Please make it happen because I don't know, and tell me if you return me any information that you want to return me. Either return an int or return some data like rows or things like that. So that's SQL, T-SQL, and I just want to show you, you have different case, and in this case, I'm just making sure that if you want to update a row because you gave the ID, so let's go back here. to the main logic, because I always use the same logic when I want to do get, set, test. No, sorry, DSC talking there. Get, set, remove, and new. To create a new one, I always use the same pattern and the same verbs in the PowerShell side, and we will see that just next. I just create the same store proc, which is create or update. Update if you provide the ID, and create if you don't provide the ID. And sometimes if I want to add a check that it doesn't exist, then it will check as well. If you have a host name and you don't want to duplicate host name, you can also make that check into your store proc. But usually I use the ID as the identifier. And then I have the del to remove it, and I have sometimes a get if I want to enable some search criteria. I'll just retrieve and maybe do some join on some of the tables. And that's about it, because if I can update, that means I can do the new object and well, the new whatever it is. So in this case, it's an event, so new event. And then I can do the update event at the same time. And then I have the del, I do a remove event. And then if I want to get everything with a filter, I do a get event. So that's the one I have here, create or update for the new with the create and for the set, del for the remove, and then get for the get. So the logic I go for create or update event, this one is the most complex. If the ID is provided, if the ID is not provided, that means it's null. I don't pass it as a parameter, so by default it's null. We defined it there. ID is null by default. Then do this, and this is what if it's null, insert it into my database. Pretty simple. We just take every value, and by default they're null. So we insert null. If you don't want something to be null, then you just don't allow null as a parameter value, and then it must be provided. If it's null and someone sends null, you will have an error on your SQL Server side. And if it's not null, that means you want to. If ID is not null, that means you want to update it. Ooh, there's a big microphone there. So if it's not null, then you want to retrieve the ID, and for all the parameters you provide, you make sure that if there's something different, you update it. So you select the current value for the short name, for the full name. Oh, someone's got a kid around. It's not me. I mean, not far, but it's not me. So I was saying, yeah, you get the current short name, the current value for each of your fields. And then for each of those, I want to know what you're updating. So maybe I'm just asking for lots of details, but I like to keep track what is changing. This is very heavy, I would say. If you're doing lots of transactions, maybe you don't want to have this. And I know there's also some analytics that can be done directly onto the SQL Server side, like you can enable change tracking. This is just a homemade version of change tracking for just making sure someone in the team is not breaking things up, or then at least we know what changed and from what to what. And then for each of those things, I will make the update. And then after that, I will create a log message and say which table was changed, which ID, and I just put that into a log table just so we have the trace of everything that changed. And I do that for each of the fields, which is a lot of code sometimes, but it's pretty much the same code every time. So you see you have a pattern, you have the if, and then you have the execution. You have again the if, you have the execution. And I do that for one, the description, the full name, and the short name. So we just do that for everything that we're updating. All right, but then how do we do that in PowerShell? How do we use this in PowerShell? Well, we need to be able to start, first of all, connecting to the database. And after updating to the database, we need to invoke the query and pass the parameters. And pretty much everything is available in a class in .NET. So you can find all of this in a .NET class, and you can start, building or use whatever you can find on the internet. You can use functions over there, and I'm sure you have many ways to do that, but I will show you the way I used, which is just using the class and then I instantiate that class, I create a new command, and I execute the command and automatically retrieve. There's many examples on the internet. I just wrote one that works for me. It's not public yet, but it should be probably before PSConfEU 2024. Hopefully. Famous last words. Okay, so this is the SQL side. We already have everything because we checked on the database. Those are here. Let's just go and then maybe execute the get event. I can't remember if there's something, so let's go script as execute. It creates this. I will execute it with F5. Oh, there's an issue because, oh yeah, it expects return ID, but it's not there. It was not supplied, which is probably a mistake in my, it's probably a mistake in my code, to be honest, which is intake and then output. And let's try this again. Oh no, it was not provided. That means I should do it there. Sorry, I'm just trying to do this live, which is a very bad idea. Returned ID. Is it here? No. Let me just try this. No, and then must declare scalar variable return ID. Did I not do it? Integer output. Yeah, that's the one. Oops. Sorry. Yeah, I probably should not do that live, but let's just give that one a shot. Otherwise, I won't do it. There's too many arguments specified. Ha! Did I do it twice? Did I do it twice? Okay, there might be an issue with my... Okay, I'll do that in another way. Or maybe I will just get another one. I'll do the get user. Stop rock. Get, no, del user, get event, log change. Oh, what have I done? Don't live demo when you're not prepared. Let me see again. Okay, del user. And I said get event parameter. Okay, I'll try again. Script as execute. Doom, doom, doom. No, it doesn't like it. DBO log. Ah, yes. Okay, I didn't see that. It's the log change that actually is incorrect because I was changing this. Procedure function log change expects parameter return ID. Yes, which is a silly thing I've done. All right, I'm not going to fix that. I can tell you what the error is because we all learn from our mistakes. I have a log change, and these are my calls to log change. The problem is log change has changed because I was developing on this one. So log change here, we will look at the definition in my database project, log change, and it says, well, we expect a return ID so that we can tell you which row you've inserted, the ID of the row you inserted. But basically, I don't want this. So let's just see if it's used. I don't know why I've done this. Maybe I was tired. Yes. Okay. So that's how I return. Basically, I just want to return. Actually, I'm not even returning. I'm just setting it to be returned by the output. So I'm just going to remove this for now. Hopefully, that's going to fix this error. And then I remove this. This I do save, as I told you earlier, build. Hopefully that works. And then 0 errors. So let's go and publish. So I haven't found a way for him to not ask me for this file every single time, but it's fine. I forgot to click here. So you can see it updates that and then connect, publish, and then we'll let him do its magic. And then it deploys the DAC pack. And you can see there's a subliminal message, PSConfEU, PSConfEU, PSConfEU. You see, I'm actually at work right now. So And there we go, it's deployed. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. So let's go again. And now we've changed this store proc, which was called by the other store proc. So hopefully we fixed it. Let's give it another go. Let's do get event and then not here, sorry. Let's refresh this because we changed a tiny bit. Okay, and then get event will go script as execute. And then let's just close that and then go F5. And now you can see another message. There you go. We have PSConfEU. This is the content of my table because I already inserted before. Okay, so this is the information that you have on this table. Yes, I fixed it live. That's a first. All right, so now we have the information on the table. We have all the store procs that we need to start manipulating. But how does it look like on the PowerShell side? Well, a lot of the data handling is managed by the SQL Server side. So we said for the creator update event, everything is every parameters is defined here. This is like the parent block for store procedure. So you have ID, short names, you say which type you want, which say if you allow to pass a null value, or if it's mandatory. So if you remove the null value like this, now you have to pass an ID because it's not, it can't be null, which I don't want that in this case. But and that's why this the short name is mandatory every time you want to create something, which probably is not a good idea if you want to update something. That means you always have to set the short name. So that means if you want to update something but not the short name, you still have to provide a short name. So let's fix that right now. I want to accept null value here. Okay, same again. I'll go straight to database project, sorry. I'll go straight to publish, and then I go again. So then you can see I do that several times. Click on it, otherwise it doesn't register the change password, connect, and finally publish. I hope it does the build. I think it does. Validates everything and then does the publish. I hope I'm going to get the little green tick. Ooh, no. Come on, Azure. Spin faster. All right. It's taking a lot of time. Uh-oh.
Excitement is building up.
No, I'm getting worried now. Okay, let's open VS Code because we've been long enough in there, and then we'll get back to this in a minute anyway. So I will go first. Okay, how I do my queries. This is a PowerShell module I'm building, and in this PowerShell module, let me just hide this a little bit. Basically, I have an invoke SQL query. There are many of those functions on the internet, but here roughly how it works. And honestly, the Copilot, so GitHub Copilot helped me a little bit doing it because I didn't know exactly the class. So I just have Copilot on this on VS Code, and then it helps me, finding how to use the class and do things like that. He needs a little bit of guidance, but it's really helpful. So I have my parameters. I say, well, first of all, get me a SQL query connection or accept a SQL connection object. So this is the type to create a connection object. For those not really familiar with .NET types and how to use them in PowerShell, if PowerShell wants to come here, come on. No, oh yes, it's up there. I don't know what's happening with my VS Code. There we go. It was just hiding. Cheeky. So this is the type. Okay. And then I have my constructor, which is new, and I can see the different signature for this method. So the constructor for creating a new type SQL connection. One is empty, you can see, without any parameter. So if I do this, I create a new instance of this object, so I can just get it there. So I say my connection, and then I have my connection object in my variable, and I can start adding the properties to it. All right, so what if I want to create a new connection that connects to my database that we just saw? So I have, oopsie, sorry, not this. I have a secret there, which is basically the full connection string to my database. So what I do is, well, I put this connection string, which I got from Azure in my Azure portal. I can go and find the connection string with the password and everything, or I build it. And then I can say, well, this is my connection string. Please create a SQL connection object. So that's what the second line is. You say, hey, the same new as we just did, but with the connection string. So we just take this. I will execute that into my terminal. So I will replace my $C. So if I just paste that one here, do not ask me again, please. Thank you. Oh, you haven't seen that. I will have to change it now. Thank you. Anyway, you've seen that I've created my my connection string. So now if I do $C, sorry, is it C? I can't remember the name. No, it's S, obviously, because there you go. I have my object here and I have my password again, which I definitely should change now. I'll do that straight after this session. So I have my connection. So what I can do now is I can do, well, do something. I can close the connection or I can try to open it. And then I can see it's open. So is $S state of my connection. The state of my connection is now open. Don't leave the door open. So I will just close it. Not clone, I said close. And then the state of my connection is closed. So I have an object which is as a state, and then I can go and open the connection to my SQL Server, which means like connect to the database. If my password or my connection string is not correct, then it will say, well, no, you're not allowed, or no, you're not connected. And once you have this, you can start creating some more objects. So let's go and see what the code is doing underneath. So it takes this as a parameter. So we provide the connection. And after that, we can invoke whatever SQL we want. And we say, well, first of all, we need to find, what kind of SQL code we want to execute. Is it going to be a store proc that you want to execute? Is it going to be a SQL query that you want to run, like a select star, that's a query? Or is it another type? So in this case, in this if, it's going to be, well, the SQL command type that you provided in parameter here will be store proc. And in that case, we need to populate all of the parameters. So I won't go into the details, but we just create a new an execute of the store proc, and then we say to execute the store proc, we will provide the parameters. So this information is there. We create a new parameter for each parameter that we passed. And then we add the information like what's the name of the parameter? What is the value of the parameter? Is there type, a SQL type to the parameter? So we define all of this, and then we add this parameter that we created. So the system data, SQL client, SQL parameter, we add this object to the query that we're doing. And we do that for all the parameters. And after that, maybe we want to have some extra handling, like if there's a return ID that's sent, and in some other case, add all the parameters. And then when you finish, if it's not open, make sure it's open. It's easier to execute stuff if the connection is open. And then you finish with you will try to fill, which is actually just make sure that you have a result object, and then you put the result of what you execute into that object. So let's go and have a look at this. Oops, sorry. So now I have another project, if I open it, which is this one. So this is another module, which is calling this module that I just showed you, which is just invoke SQL query. So if I go Control Shift, or maybe that's a bit too small. Tell me if that's probably a bit better. So now in this module, I have some information about the configuration I won't bore you about right now, but then we can have the events and we have the function. I told you about the get, the new, the remove, and we're missing a set. So probably we'll look at the set in a minute. Now the idea here is first of all, that's the query that we're executing. So you say, hey, invoke the SQL query. That's the function I just showed you. And from there, we say, execute a star proc and provide the parameters that are in this one. Again, the SQL connection, and then if you want to keep alive the connection or not at the end of your query. And what we're doing is to create the star proc, we just look at every PS bound parameters that we have, except the one we don't want. So if we have the commanded bindings, we don't want to have the dash verbose to the SQL parameter because SQL doesn't know about those. So we just say take everything except those parameters. And when we do that, PowerShell does its magic. You just have to define all of the parameters that you really want. And all of those will be sent as parameters to your SQL proc. Because the function I showed you will convert all of those parameters to SQL parameters. And then you will get a result. So let's look at what that does. So I have my project. If you've seen my presentation before, I use sampler. I'll just build it because why not? It's a bit on the fly, but we'll see. So what's happening is I just compile all of those things into a module. I just remove the old version, and then it will reappear there when it's finished. There you go. It starts to build. So you can see it built in the module here. You've got the name of the module. You have everything in there. So let's look at the content of the module. This is the content of my PSM1. It's got all the function merged. This is sampler. This is the framework I use to build my modules. And now that I have this, I can just go into my shell and I go import module. And in that case, it's called well, we can just go that one, so I don't have to type. Go to the output module SynEdgy app base, which is the name of my module, and then I just do force. So now I get module command sorry, typo, get command module, not this one, the app base. And these are all the exported functions from my module. So we were looking at the, let me just expand this. So we can be looking at this get AB event. And then we need to create the SQL connection S. So if I do $S, oh, this one doesn't exist there. So I will execute this one that you've seen before. So I'll just do, sorry, it's a secret local PS1. And now I have my connection here. State is probably closed because we haven't opened it yet. But now I can go get, sorry, that was get AB app user, SQL connection $S and verbose. Oh, I got an error. Could not find StarProc get app user. Yes, because I used the wrong name for my StarProc. So let's go back to see what's the name of my StarProc. And it's called, I was doing this one. AB app user. Yeah, because that's not the one I wanted anyway. Sorry. Get AB. And it's event. Okay, is that correct? The SQL query exception. So you see, first of all, this is a warning telling me that the StarProc I'm calling doesn't exist, basically. Oh, no, actually, this one exists. But it expects a parameter name, which was not supplied. So if I try to do, sorry, short name, and I said PSConfEU 24, it doesn't exist. I think there was a space in there. There you go. So if I give the good short name, it will do my query, it will execute the query, and then it will retrieve the information that matches. So in this case, I have an object that I can find. Where's my home button? Oops, sorry. Yeah. Object. And now I have my object here. So my object is there. I can do get type in this case. And that's a PS custom object that I got from my one entry in my database. Does it make sense so far? it's a lot of hops, because I wanted to give you an overview of, the SQL side of things, where you have your T-SQL, and then from the T-SQL, you invoke it by building the connection from the connection string, using the SQL client types in .NET, creating this, and then creating the command from that connection. And from that connection, you add all the parameters that you need based on the PS bound parameters of your function. Execute that onto your SQL Server, and then it returns you information, which is a data set, and all of the information then you can return back into your pipeline, and that gets you an object. So I've been talking for a very long time.
Sounds good.
Do you have questions? We can go deeper if you have a few questions. I just wanted to stay, you see, like it's 7 p.m. I know I started maybe a tiny bit late, and I want to stop now. And then if you have any question, feel free to ask me.
Yeah, so take the chance, as long as Gael is here.
Yeah. And I can show you back the functions. So in my source, I have my function there, and that one was the get event. And then let me just hide this for now. Basically, because it looks at the PS bound parameters, if you have a new field in your database, you just add the parameter and it will pass it to your invoke SQL query parameter. So you need to add it into your stop rock, which is defined here. This is the get event. And then it will pass all of those parameters. So if you have any questions, stop me now. If you want some more, can I use like a couple more minutes?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we've seen that we had an issue and we were not providing the short name. The issue was not, so the issue was not in the PowerShell side, it was on the SQL Server side. So first of all, if I want to make sure that this doesn't happen, we should use, PowerShell features. So in this case, I should have a mandatory equal true. If I do that, so let me just, If I do that, let me just go and rebuild this, this module. So I made a change and I just rebuild it. So sorry. Okay, I just rebuild it. I will re-import with a force, and then I will run the same two commands I ran earlier. So I still have my connection object. So the state is open because I haven't closed it yet. But basically earlier I did this and without the short name. So I did this one. The error I had was warning. SQL expects, so the SQL stop rock expected a parameter which I didn't provide. Now, if I import the module first with the force, and then I go back and find this one. So without the parameter, you see this is PowerShell telling me, well, this parameter is mandatory, so you better supply it. So if I do something like PSConfEU 24, no issue. So basically, you have to align your PowerShell parameters with whatever you want to happen and what you have in your stop rock, and that's up to you. If you do something which is, forbidden, I would say, by the SQL Server side, you will get an exception raised from there. So now that we did that, basically, we just want to have all the events, and we don't need to supply the short name. So if I want to do that, then I will remove the mandatory here, and I need to go back into my Azure SQL database project, and it was the get event, and I had a short name here that was not correct. So now that I have this, I can just make sure I build it. Excuse me, I'm trying to be fast, but it doesn't work. It's too late. Okay, building, and then I will do the publish as I done already a few times. There we go. Publish. Select the profile. It's here. Just find it for me, please. Connect. Publish. A lot of clicks. Obviously, when it's a production project, you should have a pipeline to do all of those things. I'm just doing here because for deployment purposes, I think it's good to understand what happens. But if I were to have a production system, I would hope to have a pipeline that does this for me whenever my test passes. So maybe start by deploying the DAG pack into one of the SQL instance that I use for testing, make sure everything works, validate maybe with some pester tests, and when that works, then go to production, make it ready and deploy to production. Okay, so that works now. So we can. So I built. Did I? I can't remember. No, I didn't build it. So I removed the parameter here. I need to rebuild it. So let's do this quickly. Okay. So I rebuild my module because I just changed the source. And then I do import module force. Okay, I'm cleaning this one up. And then I did get AB event SQL connection S. So let's just check the state of my connection. It's still open. It's still there. That means I have an object. It should be able to find it. And then I just go get AB event SQL connection. And that works without the parameter, just by changing how the parameter was expected on the SQL Server stop proc. Does that make sense? Similarly, we should be able to do event. That one, PSConfEU 2024, but we can also do state CH 24. And then what other parameters we have? The description. Whoops. First, PowerShell Day in Switzerland. Okay, with a single quote, that would help. And then try this. Okay, so now if I do my get, I have my two objects. And basically that means two rows in my database. So I can go back and then look here. I want to go to my connection. I look at the tables. I will go to the event info, select top 1000. It goes to the Azure stuff. And then I've got the two things, including the one I just entered. Still no question?
I don't think so.
Yay. It kind of worked.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
So that's the very basics whenever you want to have data and then you want to build data, but you want to make sure they keep, you want to have data integrity because it's good to have some data, maybe, lying around on a text file or a YAML file. But if you can't edit it and change it and then know what's happening, maybe the relationship is going to be hard to maintain. And then you have maybe one big table with just text fields. That doesn't really work well over time. So you want to make sure you set your type straight and then your relation straight. And then you have maybe some constraints, some indexes, and then you will be better set for the future. I hope you liked it. And then if you want to know more, probably you should come to one of the next events, PSConfEU 2024. PS Day, CH, and obviously all of the user groups that happens, and there's more and more, and I'm really happy about that.
Absolutely, great stuff. Thanks a lot, Gael. So, still looking for if there are some questions. People are clapping. That's good.
I'm still around if you have questions.
So yeah, I think whatever is someone is typing something. So let's see if there's a question coming in. But okay. So the recording will be available. Yes. So around next week it will be available on
just
YouTube.
wait for me to change my password and then I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay, just let me know. So
yeah, it should take me 20 minutes. Well, not 20 minutes, but
hopefully you don't need. So MFA has to work again, but it does, right? With your phone.
Yes, that's a good point, actually.
Okay.
Yes, maybe it will take me a bit longer. We'll see.
No problem. Just let me know. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I think still no questions. So this was very fantastic. A lot of insights.
Yeah, it's hard to do like on a 1 hour session to show all of the things working together, but hopefully you had an overview. And then if you want to know more, you know how to find me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Mastodon, I'm on every event. Actually, for those who wants to submit to PowerShell Summit US I think you have only until tonight because it's the end of the CFP. And for the PowerShell Conference EU CFP, call for papers, it's until mid-December.
Okay, that's good information. I put the links to PSConf and your LinkedIn and Twitter handle into the chat. So if people want to follow you, which they definitely should do for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's
Thank you.
That's there. And yeah, so if there is no other question, again, thanks a lot. That was really, really great. Thanks for everyone.
Me.
Anytime. So thanks for everyone joining. As I said, the recording will be available after Gael's password reset, but then it's it will be yeah. You will see it on YouTube. So the best way again is follow us on. I will copy also the link to our user group, Meetup and LinkedIn and Twitter handle. So to be up to date, just follow and yeah. Hope to see you in the next one, maybe in person or maybe online. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah, keep on scripting. Have a good night, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are. See you next time.